Okay, folks, I'm going to start reading the book Transferral to you by Kate Blair. Please understand have no intention of going back and doing any editing. So if occasionally you hear an announcement come on or my dog bark or whine, I will apologize, but I will keep going. Okay? I will pause for a sec to let the interruption pass by and then I will continue reading. Okay? So bear with me on that, folks. Okay, so today we're going to start reading the book Transferral by Kate Blair. Chapter 1. Penthouse Flat, Bankside, London, 24 days left until the election. The kitchen is crowded as usual. I swallow a cough as I enter. I don't want to discuss them. Dad is half hidden behind a newspaper with his picture on the front. He spots it. He spots me and folds it before I can read the headline. Now that can't be good. Allison, Dad's executive assistant, sits across the breakfast bar. She looks me up and down, apparently surprised to see me in my pajamas. But this is my home. What does she expect? How's the throat today? Dad asks. Worse. I touch my neck gingerly. The glands on either side of my windpipe are swollen and sore. My head hurts too. Dad comes over, places a sympathetic hand on my shoulder. Piers, Dad's campaign manager, turns his body away, not looking up from his laptop. Have we got time to drop Talia off at the hospital for a transfer? Dad asks. Allison pulls out her phone and jabs at it. Her hair falls over her face, perfect as usual. But she's wearing the same suit I saw her in yesterday. Didn't she go home last night? Did she spend the night with Piers? Doubtful. A volunteer back at at campaign headquarters? Sorry, we have to be at the Victoria Library at 9 a.m. to hand out literacy awards. She smiles at Dad as she says it, as though handing out literacy awards was tantamount to climbing Everest. And I need to brief you before then, Pierce says. A volunteer can take her to St. Bart's. Dad runs his fingers through his graying beard. Pierce, you said when we launched this campaign that we'd make time for Talia. And we do, just not this morning. You can brief me in the car. St. Bart's is a quick detour en route to Victoria. Piers shakes his head. She's probably contagious. We don't have any time in our schedule for you to get the transfer. You should step away from her. I'm standing right here, I say. That's the problem, Piers says. If Malcolm gets it from you and can't get it transferred right away, he might be caught on camera coughing or wiping his nose. He'd look like a criminal. We can use hand sanitizer and masks, Dad says. Talia, can you be ready in 5 minutes? No problem. I run upstairs before Piers can argue, glad of the opportunity to spend some more time with Dad, even if it's just a car ride. It takes me less than 5 minutes to put on a pencil skirt, a lamb's wool top, and a dash of makeup. But by the time I'm back downstairs, Dad is waiting in the doorway of our flat. Piers is holding the lift open with his walking stick. I grab my jacket, shrug it on, buttoning it up as the lift doors close and we descend. I sniff and the others move away from me. I don't blame them. The sound grosses me out too. But Dad smiles at me and I appreciate him making the effort. The doorman nods at us as we step out together into the hissing bluster of a spring day. The wind throws my long hair into my face. I try to smooth it down to keep it from exposing the scar that runs across my scalp. The driver waits with the limo at the curb, holding the door open. Allison gives me a mask as I get in. It's a big car with an L-shaped seat. I pull the mask over my face as I head for the corner. Dad slides his tall frame across the back seat next to me. Piers pushes his cane in the car ahead of him, climbs in, and sits at the other side at a right angle to us, as far away as he can get. Allison jumps in last, next to Dad. The London traffic is relatively light, and I stare at the muddy Thames as we cross South Wark Bridge, my head thumping along with my pulse. I can't wait to get this disease transferred. Around me, the others put on their masks and pass it around the hand sanitizer. I try not to be offended. Sorry, that was a pause because of my dog. How are the polls? I asked, voice muffled by the mask. Dad doesn't answer, so I sink back into my seat, seeing my visions of us living at 10 Downing Street slide out of sight. That bad, huh? Dad doesn't answer. Sorry. There are 24 days until the election. Don't worry, Dad says. Piers butts in. Now, Malcolm, about those ads. He starts talking about the key messages and strong visuals. I want to focus, but my head is full of aching mist. So I tune out the discussion as London flashes by, blurring into a mass of gray. After a while, Piers falls silent, and Allison's voice cuts my mental fog. Where did you think you got it, Talia? What? The illness. It's not like that you've been hanging out with criminals. It's a rude question, but a fair point. It's been over a year since I was last sick. Since everyone I know gets their illnesses transferred at the first symptoms, I hardly ever catch anything. People are at their most contagious when their noses are running and they're hacking up clouds of germs, and only criminals end up like that. That drunk man on Bridge Street last week, Pierce says. Remember? He sneezed as we were walking by. Of course. He stank of stale beer and was ranting and swearing at passerby. I told you we should have crossed to the other side of the road to avoid him, Pierce said. I wish I'd listened to him. My throat really hurts. We sit in silence for a minute. Want to interview me? Dad says. He's trying to cheer me up. It's a game we've been playing since he became a politician. I pretend to be the hardball interviewer, ask questions to help Dad practice. He has real media people for this, of course, but it's still nice to be included. Sure. I make my hand into a loose fist and stick it in Dad's face, the invisible microphone. The National Law Party are well behind the Democratic Justice Party. What makes you think you can still win? Dad puts on his serious face. Because we have to. Otherwise, Sebastian Conway and the Democratic Justice Party will take this country straight to hell. He'll cut funding for universities, for schools, for the National Transfer Service, and invest it all in criminals. I bring the invisible microphone back to my face. What would you say to those who claim he's tackling inequality? I'd say they were idiots, Piers mutters, but Dad keeps a straight face and keeps on playing the role. Poverty isn't to blame for criminality, and it's an insult to the poor to say so. When I was a child, my parents hit tough times when my father lost his business. We were often hungry, but we never broke the law. I'm nodding. It's hard to keep up the tough interviewer facade, especially with this headache. But I kept going. The current government still holds on to some core support in spite of their convictions for embezzling public funds. Do you think they could win? Dad shakes his head. They're corrupt. They stole from our country. You can't have criminals running the UK. But without those convictions, you would be the leader of a third party with no chance at this election. Some would say it was only an accident of circumstance that got you this far. It's no accident. The choice is between us, the convicts of the current government, or Sebastian Conway and his criminal-friendly Democratic Justice Party. The choice is between law and order and criminals. You're saying criminals too much, Piers interrupts. Vary your word usage. thugs, convicts, lawbreakers, crooks, violent felons, killers, rapists. And Talia, you're a terrible interviewer. You go too soft. Sorry, you go too easy on him. Practically feed him the lines. You were great, Dad says, eyes smiling over the mask. Piers is right, of course. But playing the devil's advocate is tough when the other side is so unreasonable. Rumors that Sebastian Conway wants to get rid of the transfer system altogether. How can he be winning? We turn at the entrance of St. Bart's, a magnificent white building with an archway watched over the stern gaze of Henry VIII's hands on his wide hips. When will I see you next? I asked Dad. He glances at Allison, who produces her phone again. We're having brunch with some porters in Kingsbridge at 10 o'clock. If you're done in time, you can join us there. But we're leaving for Manchester right after that. We won't be back until past your bedtime. I'm 16. I don't have a bedtime. Sorry, no offense intended. I raise an eyebrow. I'll send a car for you, Piers said. If it's past 10, it'll take you home. There's no point in coming to Kingsbridge if we're nearly done. I'll be done by then. It hurts a little when I speak. In the courtyard, we pull up outside the shiny glass of the new wing. Piers called ahead, and there was a security guard waiting outside for me. Dad twists to the side so I can push past him on the way out of the car. I want to give him a kiss, but my mask is in the way, and I'm contagious. I follow the guard into the lobby. His footsteps echo through glass and marble space at a marching pace. I trot behind him, too ill to keep up. This sort of special treatment makes me feel weird. But it would be dangerous for the daughter of the prime ministerial candidate was to wait with everybody else. The security guard gets me checked in at reception and leads me to an assessment room. After he leaves, I perch on the edge of the bed, stare at the antiseptic white space, and check my phone. 8:50. I can easily be done by 10. Almost immediately, the door swings open. A black guy stands in the frame. I think he might be a nurse at first, but he's too young and wearing jeans, not scrubs. His eyes catch my attention, a startling shade of emerald. Hi, I say, trying not to look at his chest. His t-shirts fit him well. He glances around, then his green eyes meet mine. Don't suppose you've seen a big guy around, have you? Might be acting a bit weird? No, I haven't. Or, well, I don't think I have. What does he look like? I'm babbling. Why am I babbling? This tall. He holds his hands above his head. Darker skin than mine. About so wide. I nod my understanding, trying not to cough. I didn't want to scare him away. His eyes widen. You seen him? Oh, no, sorry. I meant that I'll keep an eye out for him. His shoulders slump. Thanks. I don't want him to go. I don't get a chance to meet guys these days. What should I do if I see him? Should I, call you or something? When did I become such a stammering idiot? Nah, I'd better just keep looking. Then he sneezes. I lean back, even though he's yards away. Try not to look disgusted. After all, I'm sick too. We're all here for the transfer. Before I can say anything else, he ducks out. The door slams shut, making me jump. Well, I messed that one up. He must think I'm a total airhead. It's good, I'll probably never see him again. I exhale, kicking my feet. I keep checking my phone. 9:02, 9:10, 9:18. Finally, the nurse comes in. She pushes her frizzy hair behind her ears as she examines the chart she's carrying. Miss Hale? Call me Talia. She walks over, flipping through the chart. Right hand, please, Miss Hale. I hold it out. She produces a needle, then pricks my finger. I'm careful not to flinch at the sting of it. Have you been working here long? I cringe at the words coming out of my mouth. It must be the pounding in my head, making me dumber than usual. Yes, she says as she squeezes, producing a berry of blood. She smears it on the testing strip, pops it into the glass tube, seals it, and sticks on a label. Do you like your job? I sound like some out of touch minor royal. I'm starved for conversation with someone other than Dad and his staff. It's fine. She grabs a cotton ball and presses it to my finger. Hold this, she says. Back in a few minutes. And she's out the door before I can ask her how long a few minutes will be. I rest my aching head in my hands. 9:25. This is one of the last days Dad will be based in London. Parliament will be dissolved soon, and he's roaming all over the country on that garish campaign bus, and I won't get to see him at all. 9:29. I look up at the transfer machine. I stare at the clear tubes, the wires, and electrode pads, all feeding into the machine mechanical heart of it. The display screen is black now, waiting to come alive, waiting for someone to feed it their illness. I can see how people would be frightened of it. They had good cause once. Many lives were lost trying to replicate that first accidental transfer back in the Victorian era, when people experimented with blood, electricity, and live volunteers. But these days, you only have reason to be afraid if you're on the receiving end. It started as a purely experimental process. But when a diphtheria epidemic began, claiming the children of the Edwardian parliamentarians, the transfer was a way both to save the children and to provide an alternative to the gallows for criminals. So the National Transfer Service was founded. Tubes and wires led into the wall behind me, to the other side of St. Bart's, the other side of the law, the other side of right and wrong. After the initial success of the person-to-person transfer, scientists spent untold fortunes trying to find a way to transfer a disease to animals, to cell cultures, to corpses. But the transfer can't make a virus jump to other DNA unless it's human and alive. I check my phone again. 9:34. The transfer takes about 20 minutes to pump most of my blood through the machine. My body's defenses can remove the rest. I'm relieved when the nurse comes back in. She doesn't look up from her notes. You have the start of a rhinovirus, the common cold. You're lucky. There are always people who have been sentenced to colds. They've matched you with one. She turned on the machine and it whirs into flashing, spinning life. She hooks me up, sticking the cold pads on my skin, pushing a needle roughly into the back of my hand. I don't flinch. It'll take about 20 minutes, she says, clearly stating the familiar spiel. There's no discomfort on this side of the transfer, although you may feel some odd sensations during the process. The clear tubes feel red, and she squints at the display, pressing buttons, adjusting dials. A tingling starts, like a shiver running through my blood. I'll be back when it's finished, she says, already heading out the door. And then I'm alone again, in the white room, with nothing but the hum of the machine for company, and that odd tickle under the skin that shows the transfer is working. I don't understand the science, but my headache is fading already as the electricity and the magnetism at the heart of the machine transfers my virus through the membrane that separates my blood from that of a criminal. I wonder who they are. Perhaps it's a shoplifter or someone convicted of trespassing. It's unpleasant receiving a transfer. I hope it'll give them a shock, enough to realize that they're on the wrong path, making them reconsider. It's nice to think that my disease might turn someone's life around. I check the news on my phone. The polls are worse than last week. Dad is 8 points behind Sebastian Conway's party. No wonder the team is so low. I wish I brought a book. I miss my social media accounts, but I had to delete those once Dad became party leader. Every time I logged in, I found a load of disgusting threats from the criminals that oppose him. So I play games on my phone instead. When the transfer's done, the beeping brings the nurse back in. My head is clear, my throat is wonderfully normal. The nurse checks me over and asks if she should call security to escort me out. I shake my head. Dad would want me to, but it's 9:56 and I don't have time to wait for the guard. I head back to the lift and press the glowing circle of the ground floor button. The lift doors open and I step into the echoing space of the foyer. It's too quiet. The click of my low heels is the only sound in the hushed entrance. I take in the still tableau of the coffee shop to my right. People frozen, paper cups halfway to their lips. I follow their gaze. A man stands there, inside the main door. A meat cleaver gleams in his hand.